I count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God that's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy for all my days. Oh yes, I will. Oh, I count on one thing, the same God that never fails will not fail me now. You won't fail me now in the waiting. The same God who's never late is working all things out. You're working all things out. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy for all my days. Oh yes, I will. I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names that nothing can stand against. And I choose to praise, yeah, to glorify the name of all names that nothing can stand against. And I choose to praise, to glorify the name of all names that nothing can stand against. Oh yes, I will lift you high in the lowest valley. Yes, I will bless your name. Oh yes, I will sing for joy when my heart is heavy for all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will for all my days. Oh yes, I will. Oh, and I will praise you, God. I will praise you in the valley, and I will praise you in the storm. Oh,
Hello, South Shore Christian Academy. This is Mark Jennings, your head of school, for your chapel discussion today on April 1st. First, just a word. Thank you. Thank you for everything you're doing. I'm so pleased and so proud and so impressed with how everyone just continues to care for each other and care for one another as we walk through a period of time that's unique for us. All right, so today's word comes from the Gospel of Matthew. Matthew chapter 8, verses 1 through 4. I'd like to bring it up here. I'll begin with verse 1. When he came down from the mountain, great crowds followed him. And behold, a leper came to him and knelt before him, saying, Lord, if you will, you can make me clean. And Jesus stretched out his hand and touched him, saying, I will, be clean. And immediately his leprosy was cleansed. And Jesus said to him, "See that you say nothing to anyone, but go show yourself to the priest and offer a gift that Moses commanded for a proof to them." The word of the Lord. It's one of the first miracles that we have recorded that Jesus does. It's a healing miracle, and it's a miracle of a leper. And I found myself drawn to this passage because it's about something that's contagious, which is all we think about right now. All we think about when it comes to COVID-19 is who's got it, how many more people will get it, who's died from it, how many more people will die from it, how long do we have to be secluded, how long do we have to have this different life until it's safe to go out? Am I symptomatic? Am I not symptomatic? Do I have it? Do I don't have it? Do they have it? And we're doing social distancing, this physical distancing of 6 feet. That's all we think about is contagious, contagious, contagious. And it made me think about this passage in Matthew, chapter 8, because it's dealing with something that's contagious. It's dealing with a big concern in the ancient world in the first century. And it's interesting because it's dealing with leprosy. And the thing about leprosy was, in the ancient world, it wasn't just that there's this fear that if you got in contact with leprosy, which was this sort of idea of this, your skin, your body was just slowly decaying, right? It was just breaking down. It wasn't simply the idea that if you might catch it, so to speak. It was more than that. You see, in first century Judaism, leprosy was considered to be unclean, not just an illness, not just a virus, but unclean. And because it was unclean, you if you got in contact with anyone, or if someone got in contact with someone who had leprosy, then their uncleanness was the contagion. Their uncleanness spread. And so if you were in contact with someone who had leprosy, then all of a sudden you became unclean. You became ritually unclean, which meant in that culture you couldn't be around people. You couldn't be sort of involved in an interaction. You immediately had to go and get yourself purified by the priest. The priest would have to declare you clean so you could be back. And part of the reason it came from is death was considered unclean. A corpse was considered unclean. And leprosy had this idea of a living corpse. A person with leprosy whose skin was decaying and everything was dying was this idea of a living corpse. And so that's what made it unclean. And when someone had leprosy in the first century, it wasn't a cure. So that meant that person was unclean by definition. And that was a hard existence. A leper in the first century would have to declare themselves. They would have to enter into a space and declaring leper, leper, leper. So that would allow people to quickly give them way, give them distance, give them space. That had to be a lonely existence where you were marked as something that was unclean and would cause impurities to spread through a culture, through a society. And this kind of stuff isn't unique to the first century. There's always been something, someplace at some time where it's considered unclean. It's hard not to think about what was happening in Germany before World War II under Nazism, when Jews would have to mark themselves with the Star of David, because there was something about them that the powers that be had declared unclean, and so declared them, wanted them marked and separated. It's so easy to make a decision that some group or some person is a danger. And so then they move from just being a concern to unclean. And then we start to separate them out of society, out of fear. And so this is what was happening with this leper. And it's so interesting because when he approaches Jesus, he doesn't say, Lord, if you're willing, heal me. He said, Lord, if you're willing, make me clean. There's more to that. There's more than just restore my body, but there's make me acceptable. Heal my leprosy so I can be acceptable. Right now, when we're going through a weird time for us and for our school, for our community, for our society, and we're having to separate, and that can be tough. That can be tough. If you're like me, you have a person in your life who's your delight, a person in your life who's your smile, and being near them, being with them, being in their presence, they give you hope, they give you joy, and so you choose to be with them as much as you can because they are your delight. Imagine the loneliness of someone who doesn't have that, who the rules of society have declared them unclean. That's why I find it so very interesting what Jesus does here. The leper comes to him, as we read, Lord, if you are willing, if you will it, make me clean, which is a fascinating statement in and of itself. The leper does not doubt Jesus' ability to make him clean. If Jesus wills it, it'll happen. Such a beautiful state of humility. He comes to Jesus and says, if you're willing, make me clean. And then Jesus does something very interesting. He does something more than just heal him. He touches him. Now, don't miss that, because Jesus doesn't have to touch him to be able to heal him. We read throughout the New Testament about how Jesus heals in a variety of different ways. He heals from long distances. He heals people and he doesn't even see them. Or he heals just with his voice, and then he'll do some odd things too, which like he makes a little paste and puts it on eyes, things that just doesn't always make sense. But he can heal in a variety of different ways, which means the mode of the healing, the mode of the miracle also carries the message of the miracle, that Jesus is intentional on how he does something. And so for the leper here, who has been estranged from society, hasn't enjoyed human touch, hasn't been able to be with his delight, his smile, hasn't been able to have community, to have affection, who's been having to declare unclean, 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 unclean every place he goes to make sure people stayed away from him, who people feared because of his uncleanness. This person, Jesus touches. I wonder how long it had been since this man had felt human touch, the care touch of another person. Jesus didn't just heal him, he touched him. What a beautiful picture of the compassion of Christ. Well, it's fascinating because everything turned upside down. See, and clean and unclean don't mix, right? That was the rules of society. Clean and unclean don't mix, and clean and unclean they're not of the same power, right? Unclean was stronger than clean. I mean, that's how that logic worked. If something that was unclean touched you, you became unclean and you had to go get fixed. Unclean made clean, unclean. But not when it comes to Jesus. Jesus' cleanliness, Jesus' purity was stronger than the impurity and the unclean. It was his clean that was contagious. And that's a comforting thought. And then you notice at the end, Jesus tells them to go to the priests and to show them as proof, according to what Moses says. That's not a small thing, because that sort of stamp, that seal of approval by the powers that be, was necessary to authenticate what happened. And the authentication of what happened would then mean that this person was fully sealed and able to engage back into society. So Jesus wants him to be in community, wants him to be in society, wants him to re-engage with people, which means that there's something very valuable about being with people. We are separating from each other right now. Right? We're doing the 6 feet of separation everywhere we go. We're sequestering in our houses. So some of us, it means not even being able to spend time with the people most important to you. We're doing things like this. We're just seeing people electronically, which is great that we can, but it's still not the same. And it's not what Jesus intends for us. It's right for right now for us to do this. It shows a care and a love. We don't make joke of it. We don't make light of it. We take it seriously. There are so many among us who are in harm's way constantly, who the nurses, the doctors, the grocers, who are constantly having to come in close proximity and face contracting the disease themselves. So it's right for us to do this separation. It's right for us to love each other this way, but it won't always be this way, my friends. And it's not supposed to be this way. There is power in touch and in love and in community. This is what the healing of the leper shows us. That when we are in the compassion of Christ, we see those who are hurting and who are alone and who are separate. And we touch them and we restore them and we bring them back into community. I miss you guys. I miss you very much. I miss seeing you every day in person. The halls will open again. The school building will be open again, and that will be a good thing. We'll be back to being a community soon, and that will be a good thing. For now, stay safe. Be kind to each other. And choose joy. Let me pray. Father, thank you for the students and the parents and the guardians and the faculty and the staff of this special school and this special place. Thank you for all those who will belong to this extended community. Strengthen us to help us have the ability to meet the tasks of the day. Protect us from this virus. Protect those who are fighting it on our behalf. Give us comfort that it won't always be this way. Help us remember that your clean is stronger than our unclean. Your love is stronger than our hate. Your holiness is stronger than our unholiness. Father, help us to remember that you, the one who could calm the storm with a word, also touched the leper. Thank you, thank you, thank you. It is in Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Peace, everyone.